Hello, 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 New Haven, and welcome back to Arts Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, New Haven. I am very excited to be here today with Sev7en Taylor, and let me tell you who I am if you're just tuning in for the first time. I'm Lucy Gellman. This show is about artists in New Haven and the greater New Haven region and how they are like living their lives and making their crafts work, which I think is just one of the most interesting and beautiful things about this city. Today, my guest is Sev7en Taylor. We will be talking about his forthcoming album, The Clip Off, which is coming out on Wednesday, September 27th of this year. So I was going to say in like a month, but it's not in a month. It's in like a little over 3 weeks because we are in September, y'all, which I did not realize until probably 30 seconds ago. So maybe we'll talk about the fungible nature of time. But first of all, Sev7en Taylor, welcome, welcome, welcome to Arts Response. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful sunny Friday afternoon. I know like we could be outside right now, but you are here with me and I appreciate you.
Right. I appreciate the space and thank you for allowing me on your show.
So we're gonna jump right into it. First of all, I want you to tell me about the album, The Clip Off, and I hope I'm saying that correctly.
No, you are.
Thank you. So the album details 3 years of experience from heartbreak, self-love, finding oneself through challenges, and taking your music to another level and your art to another level. And so I want to start there. And then we're gonna get in the Wayback Machine for a little while, but let's talk about your process as an artist, and especially, when I see that something has taken 3 years, I say, wow, someone's really dedicating time and thought, and love to this project. So let's talk about it.
A whole lot of love. Yeah, so I feel like the clip off the album, it started off as like just an initial thought. I was studying the Kabbalah, which it goes into the tree of life, and people that are spiritual, they know what I'm talking about. And once I started learning about the polar opposites of like up and down, heads and tails, and so on and so forth, that's when I discovered the clip off, which is the opposite side of the tree of life, which is more so like where we're at. We're like in the earth realm, dealing with the physicality of love, sex, rock and roll, drugs, etc. Things that we become, whatever your choice of addiction is. Everybody's addicted to something, or some form of I guess, continuation of experience. So I feel like from that initial thought back in late 2021 and then going into 2022, where I knew that I was going to experience a great reset with just like life and love and all those different things. And it's like once I got back into the studio and really like firmed myself into it, that's when I knew that, oh, okay, I know what I'm going to name the album. I don't know the direction just yet at that time, but as I just persist, with back to back late night sessions and so on and so forth, writing sessions, everything like that. Yeah, it became this. It became such a story, or multitude of stories, I should say.
And talk to me about your process as an artist, because
Mhm.
some artists just like let things come organically to them. And then some, I think about like my mother-in-law, who is a writer and a novelist, and she wakes up at like 5:30 in the morning. So she has her dedicated writing time.
Yeah.
And even on days when like the muses are not speaking to her, she still gets up and makes herself do it. So tell me
Yeah.
about your process.
I like, and I love that you said the muses. I definitely got to hit back on that. Um, but I would say my creative process, literally, I feel like it's always been a spiritual thing for me. Like when I was at the age around what 7 and 9 years old, I just had this epiphany about life, and I said, as soon as I'm able to, you know, be an adult and be able to go for my dreams, I'm gonna go for it. Like I just literally told myself that one day while I was like playing around, playing with toys and stuff. I'm like, you're just having this big epiphany, and life hasn't even taken off just yet at that time. So I feel like for me, spirituality comes in a lot where um I'll see something, I'll hear something, I'll feel something, I'll experience something, and maybe at that time it doesn't become writer's content or creative content, but it's like once I go back into the archives of my mind, I start to relive the experience, and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have the conversation about it, like what I felt, what that person may have um interject into my reality, and vice versa. And yeah, so it's like, I guess in shortness, the creative process is really spiritual for me. It just hits me out of nowhere. I'll be in a
Eh,
gym,
yeah.
random,
Oh,
random
I
time.
like that. Yeah. But
Yes.
honestly, the gym is where a lot of folks get good thinking done. I walk
Mhm.
and I find that like if you walk, your mind sort of opens up.
Right, right.
So also you mentioned the Kabbalah.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering, for you, like what role do spiritual texts
Hmm.
and not only is it a spiritual text, it's a very mystical text, right? Like
Yes.
um I was gonna say it's a little bit witchy, but I'm sure there are
Hmm.
folks out there listening who are gonna get mad at me if I say that. So
No,
so let's
I think it's
yeah.
a little sprinkle of everything in there. Yeah. I don't
Yes.
feel like you're all far off at all. I feel
So
like
so
you're
talk
right
to
on
me
the
about
nail.
your relationship with like holy text, spiritual text
Hmm.
and mystical text and how they inform your
Interact with each other.
process. Yeah.
Right. I feel like I was already knew what you was hitting on. I feel like when I was younger, like when you're younger, you're basically born into a programmed state of things. Like this is that, this is your morning clothes, this is your afternoon clothes, this is your clothes to go outside and play in. Like, everything is like formulated by I would say a cycle, a schedule. It's like as you get more closer to your independence, normally when people are entering to high school or almost out of high school, you start to have this epiphany of, okay, wait, why was I being this good child for so long? Or why was I being this rebellious child for so long? I've always had a rebellious nature to me. And I think that's what really always was like a pivotal space for me to enter opportunities in my life. Because if you tell me I can't do something, I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it so well that when you get to review it, you're gonna come back to me and tell me, you know what, you did that. And that has always been my personality. If I see something and I truly want to experience and I truly want to um add to that experience the best way I can, I literally will focus in on it, execute it, accomplish it, and move on by my business. Like I never, like, hey, I did it. Yeah, I went on, the stage and killed it. Yes, I wrote 8 books. And, at the matter of the age of 28 years old, yes, I did it. Because like if you tell me I can't, oh, that's all I need. That's all the fire I need from you. Because I'm gonna prove you wrong, or that person or that scenery wrong. So I feel like in the context of religion and just social constructs of your mindset and what you are and who you are, I feel like a lot of us, we get to that rebellious nature and it's like, okay, are you going to accept the space of the bowl trying to push out the den, or are you going to be backed into the corner and kind of just like take whatever someone's giving you? So I kind of always been that bowl. And I feel that once you start to have more of an independence of your own thinking, you're able to now negotiate your life, and that's the most important thing. Like I'm gonna negotiate my life. You don't get to, you know, imprint yourself in my context of who I am or what I am or what I'm becoming. I get to negotiate this experience right here. I run this, and that's kind of like how my in shortness, my outtake on religious things versus mythical. And I think now that we're in like the age of Aquarius and we are getting, other contexts or other contacting things happening from people from beings from different dimensions and alien sightings and stuff like that. It's a very interesting time. Like the little kid in me is happy. Like, oh wait, these things that they said was not real, now they're trying to tell me is real. Even though I always had a feeling that's, you got to get the creativity from somewhere, so it had to have some type of foundation in order for you to put it in a movie, or a TV show or whatever.
And that feels like a good place to go, maybe in the
Mhm.
Wayback Machine a little bit. What was your spiritual foundation or religious? I mean, for some folks, religion and spirituality are two very different things.
Yeah,
For
they are.
some folks, they have a more porous relationship with each other.
Mhm.
Um, what was that foundation like when you were a kid?
I think I was borrowing a lot of aspects of, again, what other social systems was. Like when I was, okay, I'll tell you this very interesting story. I don't know if I ever put it in a book. Maybe I did. I had this experience when I was like a churchgoer. I went to church. I was in Sunday school. I was very young. Maybe I was like 8 or 9, maybe a little less than that, maybe 7, 6. I don't know. I got good memory, but I had this experience where the woman that was teaching the Sunday course, she said, "Oh, you can talk to God anytime you want to." So we were all sitting in rows of chairs as she was continuing her lesson. So I just started to I just started to speak to something, like speak to some imaginary friend maybe I had at the time. And it was a woman that was like sitting directly from me. She must have been like the co-teacher. And she just gave me this very strong, weird look, like, what are you doing? But I said, "Yeah, just told me that I could talk to God anytime I choose to. So why you, that's how I knew that a lot of stuff was like really like some little, you know, loopholes in the context of religion and stuff like that, and the Bible and stuff like that. There's a lot of little loopholes, and I think that was my initial space. That would be my initial space of the rebellious nature in me to see like, okay, so what is this? You know. So yeah, that's definitely was like my biggest experience with like separating the two,
Yeah.
because I
And
am spiritual, I'm not religious.
yeah, no, I think also asking those questions, and like
Hmm.
young people have the space to ask those questions because I think because they think about the world differently.
Right.
Um and like young people constantly surprise me with just
Yes.
how, like, I'm like, how does your brain work and how can I make my brain work like your
Right.
brain, because it's expansive and really beautiful. But I think
Right.
asking those questions, yeah, and you're totally right about the cherry picking of, I think,
Hmm.
fortunately or unfortunately, I would say unfortunately, in like all of the three major Abrahamic faiths, that's
Right.
pretty true.
Hmm.
Um, that there's a little bit of like, we like this part but not this part, or we're going to regulate this part but not this part.
Right.
Um, and yeah, there's so much like, so I can't
Yeah.
eat shrimp, but maybe it's not a good look to stone my white, like,
Can't mix
right.
linens.
Yeah, right,
Can't go with
right.
the cotton with the,
Yeah,
yeah.
right,
It's, you
yeah,
know.
we can talk about, that's a whole other episode.
Yes.
But I also want to talk to you because you came up in New Haven, and I
Yeah.
love talking to folks who grew up in New Haven and who have that background, because it has changed so much.
Hmm.
As I mean, change is constant, but as an art
Yes.
city, and I want to know for you, growing up in the city, what was the catalyst for you to get into the arts?
That's a good question. You ask good questions. I would say, okay, so in my earlier stages of like my introduction into high school and out of high school, I was studying theater. So I took this, I went to a college preparatory high school. I went to New Haven Academy. Shout out to y'all. And I had this internship with Arts and Ideas. I definitely believe yeah, that is the name of it, Arts and Ideas. Um, I had an internship there, and when I went to the internship, I met this beautiful woman. Her name was Sophia, and she was a studying actor just like I was. And one day when I went there to, do my little work, my little service time, she bought a camera. And I never had at that point, besides, you growing up photos, I haven't had an adult photo shoot before. So one day on our break, she said, "Let's take some pictures." So I came dressed to pair, had my little hat on, look, my little look. And we took some pictures in one of the little nearby alleyways, and, just give it like a little grudgy little look. And she was just like, "Oh my gosh, you're so photogenic." I didn't know what photogenic was at that time. I said, "What do you mean I'm photogenic? Like I'm allergic to something? What does that mean?" And then it's like from there, she's like, "No, that means you just like you know how to like take pictures." So I was like, "Oh, okay." Kept that little seed in my head. I was already in this big love interest of Marilyn Monroe and how she took photos, and watched every film and read every book I can read on her, every interview. And I once I started to understand that you have to fill the camera, like the camera itself is its own entity. So I have to fill the camera as I'm taking photos. You don't have to tell me that the angle is wrong because I can feel if the angle is wrong. I can feel if like, hey, you maybe need to push back a little bit, get my good side. But it's like with that experience, it's like a lot of stuff that started building up towards where I'm at now. So it's like I took photos. Um, my original state of mind was to go pursue acting. Then I started getting into modeling. Then I actually got signed as a model for a brief period of time. And then that's when I nestled into the books and everything. Like it's like it was a snowball effect. So I feel like New Haven in general, because I seen coming from Black and Brown communities and not seeing uh, so many examples of okay, you can do it. I felt like I had the weight of the city on my back because I had to go, especially in those spaces that were not so exclusive with, Black and brown people, go there and represent us, but also represent me and also take it to another level. Because I think when people hear New Haven and I'm going to Rocky Hill, Connecticut for like my model meetings, they're like, oh my gosh, all they be shooting there and, all that's, all the negative, notations about it. And I say, yeah, things happen. I feel like, but it happens everywhere. um, but I felt like I had to reintroduce just the city itself. Like yes, there is some, you know, challenging aspects of it, but there's so many creative avenues and, just so many artists that are beyond talented and that are doing things. Avery Wilson, that's from Connecticut, that, he's all over singing and stuff like that. And so many different other artists that I know that are just doing stuff, and they are a example of like, okay, I can do it. Like even if I get felt lost at one moment, seeing Avery Wilson or seeing all these other artists that have came up around an era that I came up, during, it gave me inspiration to just, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Like either go hard or stay home. I'm not staying home no more. So I gotta go hard. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question because
It
I'll be talking,
does.
I'll be just in there.
It does. I also want to unpack some of that.
Right.
You said that you feel like you had the weight of the city on your back, and that is
Uh,
heavy. That is
yes.
heavy, right?
Yes.
So can
Heavy.
you like, yeah, yeah, tell me about that because I also like I hope you're taking care of you.
Yes. No, I definitely at this point in my life, I definitely prioritize self-care a lot. Like once we're done with this, I'm gonna get my nails and stuff refilled and
Yes.
do big. But I think also, yeah, like I think also it comes from the space of when you're in, your family, I call it your earth family, and you're dealing with the first to do this and the first to do that. That's heavy right there. And there's so many people that are trying to occupy those spaces, but they don't know how to like navigate themselves through it. So sometimes they, quote unquote fell. I don't think you fell at all. As long as you're doing it, you never fell. You just leveling up. But if you just go ahead and just flat out quit, then maybe, yeah, maybe that was a failure. Maybe that was a lesson. But I feel like from my instance, from the moment I got out of high school in 2013, I said, okay, game time. I need to figure out what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and just how it looks. And even if I didn't have a very prestigious outlook on it, at least I can gravitate to some type of examples. Like I said, seeing other peers going into the industry and doing their thing and, spotlights and stuff like that. So it's like once I got that space that I can do it, I just went into it and did it. But yes, there's a big heaviness that you have from your earth family. There's a big heaviness that you have from the city in general. There's a lot of people that are doubting your process and have a lot of those people I've proved wrong, but there's a lot of people that doubt your process, and they got to understand that a process is a process. It's not something that just happens overnight. Alignment is a big thing in my life. This is alignment. Us talking is alignment. This is gratitude. I'm in of full gratitude at this moment because I'm like, okay, I get to come somewhere and speak about something that is dear to me, and it's not shunned away. It's welcomed. Is let's go deep. And I feel like that's what separates alignment from someone trying to force something in your life. Like once it has come together, listen, go for it. But I do feel that anyone and I speak to anyone that is very artistic, very outside of the box, always is exploring identities and um, non-sexuality contexts. Is just you always have this weight on your shoulder because it's like someone's looking up to me, which I get a lot of that, that I didn't know. Someone is watching me from A to Z that I didn't know. And it's like I spiritually could feel someone like, okay, if he does it, I could do it. And that's just how I felt with other people going up before me. So it is a heavy context and shortness. But I think I handle it well.
And did you also feel like, because New Haven Academy is, at least now, it's pretty rad. Like I mean,
Yes. It's a college preparatory.
I'm
Last
proud
time I
of
checked.
all of our high schools,
Yes.
but New Haven, I feel like the students who are coming out of New Haven Academy, like there's something different in their water fountains, right?
Right.
Um, and they're like, I feel like it's a school that has a really strong social justice backbone and sort of moral compass. And a lot of the teachers carry that with them. Was that your experience when you were there?
Yes. I think I'm sorry, I'm just having a whole download as you're speaking to it. Like I'm just thinking about high school. Um, I would say, yeah, that high school for me was so different because I thought it was gonna be like the TV shows. Like I thought I was gonna have like even though I had a lot of the Degrassi moments, I'm a big Degrassi fan, but I felt like when I was going into high school, I was like, okay, so where's the cameras at? Where's our cue cards? Like okay, whose storyline we gonna live out this season? But I do feel that when you are in those chaos, spaces, and chaos is not a bad thing. Like it's life is chaotic. It's going, it's coming, but I feel like when you are in those chaotic spaces, you do get to, I guess, get a variety of what's happening in each individual life, even though they don't share everything. We had a lot of senior moments where we shared what we were going through. Like for me, I was going through a process that's called shadow work. And that started at like 14 years old. Like something one day just told me before, it was like a month before I went to high school. It said, you're gonna be celibate. And I'm like, okay. And then it said it's gonna be a process. It's gonna be a process because I had to, for myself and my experience, when I was a child, I, was exposed to child abuse and stuff, so on and so forth. So it's like I had to go through the roots of removing uh, trauma from intimacy, you know, in order to have healthier relationships in my life. So it is not so like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I feel like when I did go into high school, I had such a different pivotal experience because I was removing a lot of the just the ickiness and the what I felt was a stain on my shirt. What I felt like was a burden or why me or whatever the situation is. Like I had to remove all that. So it's like I was going through, and this is when I discovered the word metamorphosis. I was literally going from my caterpillar to the cocoon to the butterfly, and the butterfly happened at graduation day. So I had to go through that whole process of just removing all those things because I needed to be lighter. I needed to feel what I feel, and I needed also to be able to connect with myself as much as I can while being around all this chaotic, energy. I think I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. And at that point,
Okay.
did you already know, you mentioned being really interested in theater and in acting
Mhm.
from a young age. Did you
Yes.
also already know or were you already writing and making music at that time?
Yes. Because I got scouted far as for my literature work when I was like 12 years old. It was a publisher that was interested in me. And I told him, can I just wait until high school? Like, I don't know, again, another spiritual experience. I said, can I just wait till high school? Because I know my writing is going to be better. Even though my writing was very good for 12 years old, they're like, how you come up with these stories? But I'm just like, hey, my mind's just, it's like a TV. But I felt like if I could wait into high school and I know my writing is going to improve, then can we have the conversation again? And they waited or so, and we end up still having meetings, and we went from there with certain things. But I do feel that I've always been a writer. I used to feel like when I would read books like Harry Potter, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, etc. When I would read books, I could feel the pages. And I don't know if it's like just like a someone that's have a love for writing or literature, but it's like I could. There's nothing like being cuddled up and having your book, and then you can actually feel the pages of what's being read, but also feel the story just like brewing. Sometimes you just read a whole book in one day.
I love
And
that.
right.
I love that.
Yes. So yeah, I just feel like I always in shortness, I've always dabbled in everything. Like even
Yeah.
music. I didn't know what I was with music just yet, but I'm in front of my mother's mirror singing and rapping, you know.
I love, and who were some of the writers and musicians who sort of like
Mhm.
informed you? I mean, you mentioned
Mhm.
Toni Morrison. It's interesting. I don't always hear J.K. Rowling and Toni Morrison in the same sentence.
Right. That is
So,
true.
but yeah, and like we don't like J.K. Rowling, but she can't that can't ruin the
Right.
magic of Harry Potter, right? Um,
Yeah, that was a very impactful space. Yes, even though
yes.
now that we like much older and we're in social media world, it's like, oh, okay, JK.
Yeah, but that's like she's not going to take Harry away from us, right? He's
Right,
still a
right,
wizard.
right,
And I feel like your jump from like this to like the Kabbalah is very I
right,
see a through line. I do.
right.
So who were some of the writers and musicians who, who like I think of them as like sort of sitting on your shoulder and whispering in your ear a little
Mm,
bit.
I love. Yeah, you asked some good questions and good visuals. But yes, I would say for me, James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, uh, the author of The Great Gatsby. Can't think of his name, their name. Um, Streetcar, the author of Streetcar Named Desire.
Tennessee
I
Williams,
have,
yeah.
yes, I have so many that like inspire me in different ways, and and definitely shout outs to just my literature teachers that I had at New Haven Academy, like Miss Webb and Mr. Ward, and etc. Because the context of the movies and books that we read during our high school years, they all impacted me. Even the Woman's of Brewster Place, it's just so many. It's so many. But I would say far as like musical influences, what got me into rap music and just expressing myself that way, it would be my influences is Nicki Minaj, Foxy Brown, Little Kim, Jay-Z, Biggie, Missy Elliott. Far as for that first bracket, them together would make me. I'm like a love child of all of those individuals, and I've actually had the privilege to get a lot of interactions from like Foxy and Nicki Minaj, and Missy. I haven't got the other ones just yet, and then obviously Biggie's no longer here. Rise in peace of his soul. But so yeah, I would say those are the ones that really. It's like Nicki Minaj made me know that you can do it, you can have fun. I'm a soul that expressed my feminine and masculine energy at the same time. And she was so feminine, but so masculine at the same time with her, you know, her articulation of words and the way that she approached songs and the way that she made you forget about whose song it was because it was her song now. It was so many different, I would say, avenues of that. So it's like those artists just in different ways made me feel like, okay, I do have a place in hip hop. I do have a place in rap. It might not be so vast right about now. Um, but at some point I will have an entry point. And I did, like at high school. I started to play around with the music.
That's
And then
amazing.
yes.
Yeah. So you graduate, and what's the journey to becoming an author? We were talking a little bit about this off mic, and then of course,
Mhm,
like the labor of love that went into the clip off and into other music making that you've done
mhm.
before before COVID-19 and the pandemic. But I do want to talk about this
Right.
specific 3-year stretch because I think there's a lot that has happened to like
Mhm.
to all of us
Right,
on
right.
like a deep, like bone deep level, right? Or
Mhm.
deeper than bone deep level. Um, but first of all, so you graduate from high school
Yes.
and you're like thinking about putting this creative gift into the world. Talk to me about that because it can be like young adulthood is scary.
It is, and it's no blueprint. I wanted to tell
That's
everyone
right.
right now, it's no blueprint. Like you literally make your own, I guess, soundtrack to your own life. That's like this, that's the most important thing. But I do feel that when I did go, so like you said, like leaving high school, like what was the process of going into my creativity? To rephrase the question, that what you're saying? Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. So basically, I'm sorry. So yeah, basically when I left out of high school, I was already, like I said, I had the actor brain going on. So I'm like, okay, where's the acting gigs? Where's the acting gigs? And then, like I said, I started nestling and meeting different people along the way. That was, I guess, soul alignment to introduce me to different facets of Seven, like the model, the actor, the author, the music artist, the business owner, etc. Um, while at that time of navigating that space, or those spaces, I should say, again, it wasn't no blueprint. I didn't have many people in my family, my Earth family, that looked like me, taught like me, act like me. I feel like a lot of individuals had a space of occupying their goals or dreams, and just like the raisin in the sun, it's kind of like they had that moment in their life. I do feel like you still can reinvent yourself if you want to. So it's like I didn't see a lot of gardens around me. That's like a good way to put it. I didn't see a lot of gardens that were like flourishing. That every season you came, you had something new to harvest from it. So that was like my inspiration. To like go into that creative note of with myself.
And tell me about the name Seven, which is for folks who maybe don't like who are listening but who don't have
Mm-hmm.
a visual. It's SEV and then
The number
seven,
seven. Yeah.
EN, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And Taylor with a Y, not like an I,
Yes.
not yeah, not like the
Yeah,
clothes,
not like the tail of the clothes, right?
like Tim the Tool Man Taylor. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and so basically Seven Taylor. So Seven came to me as a spiritual dream. Like I used to go by my government initials, which was T Taylor. And then right before I was putting out one of my biggest like studio projects, my first big studio project, I had this dream, and in the dream they said, "You're seven." And I said, "Okay." And then it was like, "And this is how you're gonna spell your name." And once I spelled my name that way, and I changed everything, my social media, everything, I changed everything. I went with the whole experience. Once I did that, it was like open sesame. Everything began to open up. I started getting bookings. People are interested in what I'm doing. Just more of a gravitational pull. And then Taylor, I just kept Taylor to, like I said, Taylor's my legal last name, but I kept Taylor to honor my late grandmother, Gwen. You know, it's because I feel like she had a lot of instrumental spaces of my early development. She was always loving. You go to her house, you never leave her house empty handed or not full. And I think those different formatting experiences of love was totally different nowadays. Because nowadays
Yeah.
love is kind of like, give me something. And then I'll think about giving you something back. Then it was like, come, I made a
Yeah.
pot of this. I made a pot of that. Take this, take that.
I
It
love,
was no more.
yeah, I love that. I hope that that energy still exists in the
It
universe.
does. I feel like it does. It's different, and I feel like when you meet I call it your spiritual connections, your spiritual family, your spiritual partner, etc. It does. It comes back. It comes back in different ways.
So tell me about where you were artistically when March 2020 rolls around.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. That was like, I feel like that was the great reset for myself. Like that was literally the reset itself. Um, I was ready for new. I was tired of the 9 to 5 world. I knew that a boss lived inside of me, just I knew an artist lived inside of me at the same time. And once it happened, I was able, obviously we were all home. once it happened, I was able to really tap into me and realize, oh, you don't have to do this. Like again, arguing back and forth with that systematic downloads or that systematic approach. Like I didn't have to really be in that space. I'm choosing to be in that space because I'm just choosing to take whatever bread and butter is being brought to my table. It's like, no, there's always been a menu here. There's always been something that you can look at and order exactly what you need to order. Like, why are you taking the bread and butter when you can have the steak and lobster? So that's kind of like where my downloads came in at. And that's kind of also where I just started to think outside the box and I had a whole wave of spirituality that happened where I really was able to like dissect what capitalism is and how it looks and how it sneaks into your house and rob you, and how it could rob your dreams, your goals, your aspirations. And that's the reason why a lot of people are still having the syndrome of a raisin in the sun, especially in Black and brown communities.
And so you start working on the clip up. And did you know at that point that it like this is what the project was going to become? Or did
Mhm.
you just think I'm doing writing, I'm making music, I'm thinking about this in a different
Right.
way. I've had my reset, and then it sort of
Like
coalesced and
naturally.
and became like for you, does the big project idea come first and then the little work come, or the little work comes and then the big
And
project
then the
idea?
project. Yeah, well, so at that time, so back in like 2020, I had two projects that came before this one is about to come. So I had The Disobedience of Jimmy Taylor, which is like my rap alter ego. And that was more like horror style. I love horror music, like I love horror anything. Um, then I had Blessed Be, which was like it was the side B to that project. And then now we're at the clip off. But it's like it was like a stepping stone. It's like with each project, I became more and more less worried about what anyone's thinking and less worried about anyone else's social constructs of what an artist is and what does it looks like to be a black queer individual or whatever the situation is. As like I was more so now driven towards achieving the dreams inside of me and achieving things. Like I didn't care about those negotiations anymore. And then, yeah, once those projects, I'm sorry, to end it off. Once those projects hit and everyone started to get a whiff more of my creativity and, oh, okay, understanding seven. That's when 2021 is when the seed hit to start working on the clip off, or just the thought of it first, because I didn't even approach the studio just yet.
Sorry, I was
No,
muted.
it's okay.
I apologize. And and how do you feel now that we're like T minus 4 weeks, right?
Oh my gosh. I
This
feel
is almost out in
so
the world. Yeah.
yeah, no. I feel so surreal with everything because when everyone, the audience and everyone that's will tap in do get to hear the project and do get to hear the stories that I'm telling and just the growth, my lyrical wise, flow wise, singing abilities, etc. And I do get to showcase a lot of the personal behind the scenes of my life these past few years. It feels like finally closing a door. But then that door opens another door. But that door is what's leading you more towards again your alignment. So I'm able to now just like digest spiritually what this means. Like I had to go through those experiences in order to write the book. I had to go through those experiences in order to write the album. Other than that, we probably wouldn't be here. So I had to choose these realities and I had to like quantum jump in a way. Like, all right, let's get over here. All right, let's get over there. And yeah, it's a big countdown in my mind. And I'm just so super thankful for everyone that's a part of it and that will be featured on the project. I didn't even drop the album cover yet. I haven't even dropped the official track list yet. All that is about to be coming very soon. I just think I just been taking my time, but I have put out a few different mini commercials that people could tap into on my YouTube channels and stuff like that. Just to tease, and the tease been teasing because people are like, okay, I want the project now.
So if you're just joining us here on Arts Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven,
Yeah.
I'm Lucy Gellman, and my guest today is Sev7en Taylor. We are talking about his forthcoming album, The Clip Off, which drops September 27th, which is a Wednesday, if you care about dates,
Yes.
of this year. So in just a little over 3 weeks, which is really, really exciting.
Yes.
And so you described it as feeling like there's a door closing,
Hmm.
which is really interesting. I want to ask you about your generative
Hmm.
process. So
Okay.
what, like, uh, you're young, right? And
Hmm.
one doesn't stop. Like artists often, sometimes an artist will drop a work and be like, this is my last work. Although
Hmm.
sometimes I'm like, but is it? Is
Right.
it actually? It really? Like sometimes novelists do that and they're like, JK, JK, I have,
Right.
three other books in me. Um,
Right.
so so for you now, like
Hmm.
what is your art making process and what have you been able to open up now that this work is out in the world and you've like birthed it?
Yes. Oh, such good questions. I feel like you want to know something, and this is kind of like a exclusive thing. I feel like I already came across the next title for the next project by something that I do say on the project itself. And we'll talk about that, I guess, when it's time to talk about that. But I do feel like the seeds start to plant themselves. Or it's like once the main plant comes up and it throws out the seeds, the other seeds start to come up too. So now I have new things to like tend to and harvest too. Um, and I do feel like with the clip off finally, as you said, almost here, I think about it landing, like it's coming from a different dimension and it's get his on his way to Earth. It's like a global phenomenon. Um, I do feel like it's something that will open many doors for me. Um, there's so many alignments that's happening, like with the number 27. Like my album comes out on September 27th. My book comes out worldwide October 27th, but it's available for pre-order. Um, I started my first leg of this press tour on July 27th. you know, and then also the track list right about now is at 27 tracks. And that includes intermissions, interludes, etc. So it's like that 2-7 is keep popping out, keep popping out. So I guess maybe that's like another spiritual message to me in regards to my alignment. So I do, and even like what writing the eighth book, I started writing this book, I started working on this book, I want to say late 2021. I didn't finish it until what, a month, 2 months back. And I didn't know that. I thought I was gonna stop at seven because seven, seven, seven. But no, it was like the number eight, which is a transformational number. It's an infinite. Um, that governed my heart at the time. So I was just like, okay, I have another book in me. I didn't know it, until I just started writing. Oh, yeah, that's the allergies and everything. Yeah, you okay? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I've been fighting
I'm
it
so sorry.
myself.
Everyone I've talked to has said that
Hmm.
this year for allergies in New Haven is worse.
Yes, it
So
really is. I've
yeah,
been
so
having the worst allergies.
yeah, no, it's real.
Hmm.
So I before we go, I have two
Hmm.
more questions. The first is
Perfect.
about your book. Tell our listeners. So we have a general listenership,
Hmm.
and y'all are gonna have to wait until October.
Right,
So
but they can pre-order now.
the album
Yeah.
comes first. Yes, but you can pre-order it.
Yes.
The album comes first. But
Yes.
tell our listeners about your book, and then I have one more question before we head out.
Okay. Well, I definitely want to show y'all it. So the book is titled "I Think I Love Myself: Deep Meditations, Affirmations, and Universal Connections." It is available on my website, booksby7.com for pre-order, which all pre-orders will go out a month early, and I do sign it. And then I'll soon think about where I could host a book signing and stuff at. Um, but the book was inspired by getting to a space where you have to reintroduce self-love back into your life. From being I was in a relationship for like a year and some change, and um, it was just a space where I needed to find myself again. So I had to purge out a lot of emotions. I had to, you go through the whole separation process, et cetera, reset, get back to you. But it wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a lot of more, I would say you have more insanity moments when you're dealing with emotions because you're having so many various narratives in your head, about just the guilt of um, failures of relationships or did you fail yourself? Did you fail that person? What was the dialogue that was happening in this experience itself? Um, Learning how to heal from, my earth father transition a few years back, learning how to heal from a rejecting experience like that, because it was always rejecting of love him for some reason. Um, just a lot. I went deep into the vault. I talk about a lot of experiences with just aliens and spiritual downloads, and I use different aspects of my life, so it's kind of like a memoir in a sense, to explain and break down what's happening, why it's happening, and what comes after the happening. So I definitely feel like I think I love myself, Deep Meditations, Affirmations, and Universal Connections, a very long title. I think this book right here, is the groundbreaking book for me because you finally get a piece of literature that will really introduce you to so many different levels of you as you're reading it. And even at the end of the book, there's like a little questionnaire for you. And I ask you to ask yourself I ask the reader questions and they could put it in. So it's like a little diary inside us at the same time, because we're going to do some shadow work during this process. We're going to heal. We're going to understand the commitment to resets and also understand how resets may look because it looks different for everybody, you know. But yeah, I think I answered it. But yeah, in shortness, go ahead.
You did, and it flows right into my last question, which is a question
Yes.
that I love hearing from artists.
Mhm.
Especially like I feel like the book is doing
Mhm.
some deep, like deep work, and it sounds like the album is also
Yes.
being very vulnerable
Yes.
and being willing to go into places in your past that maybe have been painful. And I hope that
Mhm.
also you feel like there is now closure around. And
Also, a
so,
whole lot of closure.
and also like artists, we know because I work in the arts, like artists often
Right.
have like 8 side hustles to make their artwork.
Hmm.
And so how do you take care of yourself?
Yes. So right about now, outside of my musical incomes and stuff like that, I do have a legitimate business that where I work with a lot of brands. So I'm behind a lot of brands. I have them with websites, logos, etc. Um, I have a very artistic approach to things. So a lot of the brands that I've been working with for the last past few years, where like in contracts, I just now when I do approach their brand, I'm able to help give it more of a commercial feel. It's like I dust it off and add a little this and add a little that, and then boom, 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 and then they put it out there, and then their clientele start, booming. And then I also have spiritual services as well, where a lot of individuals from all over the world come and get soul sessions and stuff from me. So I tap in with all different aspects. Like I said, booksby7.com. I have everything available for you, and I think that is a big space of gratitude because I do remember back in again early 2020, way before the pandemic things really took off. I remember being on a work shift and saying, if the universe can grant me at least an inch of the door open, I'll just kick it down. And that comes with tests and you know another testimonies of experiences as well. But I committed to what I said that day, and now that I'm here with you and we're here, um, I'm like, oh, what you say is it plants itself into your universe. So be careful with what you say.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy, Seven Taylor, that you have joined me today, that you have
Yeah.
had many words to say, all of them good, on Arts
Thank you.
Respond on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. Thank you
Yes.
so much for being here. I'm sorry for my stuffy nose. It
No, it's
really
okay. I
is.
was fighting mine. I had to look
It's
around
all
because I
the
was fighting a
allergies.
sneeze.
It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah, the trees are out there doing their pollinating thing, and I am
Yes.
grateful. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the bees out there.
Yes.
However, my nose is not grateful for
Right.
it. So
Right.
thank you so much. If you are
I
just
thank
joining,
you.
if
I thank
and
you so much.
yes, I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
If you're just joining us, you've missed a great interview. Please go back and listen to it. My guest
Yes.
today has been Seven Taylor, and we are talking about his forthcoming album, The Clip Off, which drops on the 27th of September. If you didn't know, now you know we are in September.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That was so fast.
What is time? I don't know. But it
Right.
drops on the 27th, which is I think 3 weeks from this coming Wednesday. If you're
Mhm.
listening to this live on Friday, if you're listening to this at some other time, just disregard that. But thank you so much for coming.
Thank
Ah,
you. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. And as always, Harry Joes, thank you so much. The man behind the controls. Thanks for making magic happen.
Thanks,
Have a
Carrie.
beautiful weekend, y'all.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.